Welcome everyone to another wonderful podcast. And I always look forward to my podcasts, even though I don't know who they are, what they do. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but I do like conversation. And today I know I'm going to have a wonderful conversation with Juliette Denny.
Denny, yeah.
Denny, I should have kept it simple. Why am I trying to complicate things? She's made it simple for me, without a doubt. So we're going to have that conversation. We're going to ask Juliette what she does, how she helps people, and then we will go with the flow. Hi, Juliette. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Thank you very much for having me on the podcast. I appreciate it. And I'm very much looking forward to speaking with you.
Good. So just tell us what you do and how you help people as a business.
Okay, so as I said, my name's Juliette Denny. I am 52 years old, and about 20 years ago, I started my fifth company, which is a SaaS technology business called Growth Engineering. And we work with some of the biggest companies in the world, Apple, P&G, L'Oreal, helping them deliver learning platforms to upskill and develop their employees. So I, about 18 months ago, as much as I absolutely love growth engineering, I saw the kind of wave of AI coming, and I was absolutely convinced that I could create another company that was really focused on personalizing education for all through utilizing AI. So about 18 months ago, I left growth engineering. I'm still obviously the largest shareholder and I sit on the board, but I left growth engineering to start up Iridescent Technology and develop a personalized lifelong learning companion called Zavmo AI. And the reason I did that is because I am dyslexic myself. A lot of my family are dyslexic, and I have a real passion for education for all, sort of ensuring that nobody gets left behind, and we can basically make development and the pursuit of intellectual curiosity as open and as accessible for anyone as much as possible. And so I developed something called the 4D process, which underpins the sort of brain psychology behind Zavmo AI. And we are now working on some big pilots with different types of organizations, so large corporates, but also national education bodies, to try and create, make content as unique as every individual. So that's me in a nutshell.
You've got so much going on, and I can hear the experience in the background at the same time. But obviously, the reason why you've gone down the learning route to help so many other people is obviously because you're dyslexia, as you said that you had issues. And also, we just spoke briefly as we came on. You said that it runs in a family, which is what you always said. Now, you've run so many businesses, which is really interesting because there's a lot of people that are dyslexic, including me, that have issues thinking, I can't do this and I can't do that. I can't go to uni. I can't go to college. I can't do a business. I can't do all these things. What made you think you were capable of doing great things regarding running your first business? Because you said you've done 5. So take us back. The struggles you struggled with dyslexia, it's not easy, and it's not easy to accept how dyslexia affects your life in a negative way. What was the turning point for you when you thought you could run a business?
There's so many things to unpack there. I mean, first of all, being dyslexic, I really struggled at school. So I got chucked out of school. I basically got suspended 4 times and then expelled. And I think my frustration was, I'm not a naughty person. I don't think anyone is kind of bad at school, in terms of, it's just that I wanted to learn. I've got a really good brain on me. And so I think from that very, very early age, I was like, this is just really annoying. Why am I, I'm smart. The A stream they've got a lot more fun going on in their class than I have, in the C stream, because, I can't, things are moving around on the page. I don't understand what's being said. I can't read the big words, the list goes on and on and on. So I think from school was a real challenge for me. Luckily, I met the right people in my life, and I actually ended up getting a master's from Harvard. So, you know, it's clear I'm not stupid. But why did I think that a business was the way for me to go? So, you know, in you know, self-employment rather than working for other people. Quite simply, nobody would damn employ me. I mean, large companies, if I wanted to, who the hell would employ me? And I think it's so bizarre. I say this to my teams now. I'm like, it's hilarious. I have, you know, the biggest company. We work with the biggest companies in the world, and they ring me up. Yeah, can you help us with our learning development? We need to transform it. We need to do something. And I'm like, you wouldn't employ me. I mean, you know, I think once you've sort of proven that you can do it, that's one thing. But I mean, you know, going through the application process for, you know, the largest companies in the world and McKinsey and all of that kind of stuff, you know, the reality is that they're looking for somebody that's been formally.
No, I know what you're saying. I mean, the world is wide that you have to have that piece of paper, right? And so the problem is, even though you know you're capable, you know you're able to actually do the things that you can, and far more efficient than anyone else, because you haven't proven it on paper. That's where we get stuck. And it was the same thing with me. You know, I was able to, you know, build a team, run a team, but I don't have it on paper, because I feel you know, everything swims. You look at the piece of paper at certain times, and you have really bad days, you know, and you just can't. But it's not because you're stupid, as you've already said. It's just, you know, you're stronger in one area of your life than others. Now, going back to your childhood again, now you didn't know you was, oh no, maybe you did. Did you know you was dyslexic as a child? Because your family were dyslexic. So I would have thought at an early age you would have had that support that you was dyslexic because the rest of your family. Is that correct?
Well, remember, I'm a bit of an old lady. I'm 52. So although I was diagnosed, it wasn't really, you didn't really have support. And I'm not sure you do now. You know, I mean, I look at my son who's 18, and again, you know, he's ended up dropping out of school, really smart cookie. You know, he's got a whole life of adventures ahead of him. And, you know, I'm enormously proud of everything that's he achieved, but, you know, he's dropped out of school. But yeah, not really the kind of support that, you know, would allow him to kind of flourish and grow in the educational system. And I think this is really why I just felt so compelled to basically try and create a new way of learning, which was totally unique to the individual. I am convinced that this idea of a one-to-many education just basically excludes a lot of people that have got, you know, neurodivergent issues, and that exclusion is to the detriment of the whole of humanity, because you are missing out on a hugely creative swath of people who, you know, formal education just doesn't work for, and that's not right. That's not I feel like that's a problem that I should just dive in and try and solve. And so that is really what I'm trying to do with Zavmo. It is, you know, what we say is it's a lifelong learning companion to make learning as unique as you are. So whatever you need to ensure that the instructional approach meets your needs, that is what we're going to be delivering to you in a conversation. So, you know, the vision is bold, but I think it's important. You know, I mean, people that are neurodivergent, you know, are capable of doing everything. We shouldn't be locked out. And I think to a certain extent, you know, we are. So, you know, and I think AI, now with the arrival of AI and large language models and all the stuff that you can do with AI, it's
changed the game.
Absolutely changed the game.
Yeah, I mean, it really helped me. I mean, I've been using AI for quite some years now, and it's helped me to spell and use my vocabulary in a much better way, because it's like having a teacher. If you use it as a tool, it actually can help you write so much better, which it has done with me. Now, I'm going to go back to your childhood, because I can see you're quite a stubborn cookie. You know what you want when you want it. Now, how did that come about? Was that the situation that you struggled with dyslexia, and you had to be a stubborn cookie, a strong cookie, or where does that come from, that strength, that rod of iron?
So back in the day, okay, there was a program called Dynasty.
I remember. I'm not that old, but I do remember.
So there was this woman called Alexis Colby.
I remember.
She used to wander. She had her own business. She was an oil magnate.
That's right.
And she had a boyfriend who was a cowboy. And she had her own money, and she just did what the hell she wanted. And I was like, when I grow up, I'm going to be Alexis Colby.
Really?
Yep. Pretty much as simple as that. I was like, dude, she nails it. She's got gowns, she's got jewelry, she's got her own money. It's private jets everywhere. And she's got a good looking younger cowboy as a mate. Like, what's not to love? Oh, girl, that's going to be me. Now, unfortunately, I was not born in, the area of the world where I could go into the oil industry. I was, my first job was in tech, in sales. And luckily, that was the big kind of, the big wave, it was rising. So I started off in box software, then moved into SaaS, as I said, and now I'm in AI. But yeah, I mean, I just think having, although she, wasn't a real mentor, it was still the art of the possible. You just look at her and you're like, yeah, I want that independence. I want, all of that. Sod it. The fact that I can't get myself a GCSE. And now I know what good looks like. That is the life I'm going for. So
you thought you'd skip the GCSE and go straight for the kill?
Yeah, well, I didn't really get a lot of choice, to be fair. I mean, I got chucked out. So, it was, those years were the wilderness years, so I got chucked out when I was 15. So kind of the wilderness years happened sort of 15, 16, 17, but in the end, I ended up going into vocational education. So I did a BTEC. I did phenomenally well in my BTEC. So it was in fashion, actually. Very practical, very hands-on, and I absolutely loved it. And then one of the lecturers, when I was doing my BTEC, was like, you should go to university. And I was like, what? I can't spell. I can't even write a damn sentence. I can't even read. What are you talking about? I should go to university. She was like, Juliette, you've got distinctions across the board. What are you talking about? Just be a bit more confident. Anyway, I did end up going to university. So I ended up at Manchester Metropolitan, again, doing kind of retail stuff. But it was hard. It was really difficult because obviously the numbers and the letters are swimming on the page. Just even writing stuff down, doing essays was a nightmare. I did get through it. I didn't get a great degree, but I did get through it. I got a 2-2. And then I just loved working. The working was fantastic. And I did really well. I started off in sales, as I said. And then
well done you. Because, I mean, I made the mistake thinking to myself, right, as soon as I found out it was dyslexia and I was in college, I thought, no, that's it. I can't go any further, because at the time there wasn't a huge amount of information when it comes to dyslexia. It was a situation where you got dyslexia and then you can't do this and you can't do that. And because of the can't stayed in my head. So I didn't go take it further, which is unfortunate. Well done you, because you had a tutor that says you can do this because of A, B, and C. Even though you had dyslexia, you carried on, you went forward. Yes, from the point of view, you didn't. From your point of view, you didn't get a great grade. From my point of view, you did amazingly well because you got a grade, and you did how long was it? 3-4 years?
Yeah, it was a 4-year sandwich. Degree. I mean, I have to say, I really struggled. I struggled with my mental health as well, because it was just so difficult to kind of keep up.
I can imagine
all of that, type of stuff. But what was interesting was then, once I got out of university, I started my career, and I was earning money, and I was really enjoying it. I did quite well, and so I spent sort of 5 years pursuing my career. Then I exited one of my businesses. And ended up traveling. And while I was traveling in South America, I met my first husband. And he ended up applying to Harvard Business School. And so I ended up being in the US as well with him. So I started off, and I was my first job was basically as part of the .com boom. So, going in technology. But then the .com bust came and I got laid off. And So I decided I was going to go to night school in Harvard.
Okay.
And that is when things really got interested in terms of my education, because I was able to almost educate myself on my own, which sounds a bit weird, but basically what would happen is I'd turn up to the lectures, okay, bearing in mind it was all night school. So my used to start at 6 p.m. and then I used to finish at midnight. So it was all night school at Harvard University. And then I used to, attend the lectures, and then I used to go away and study. And I studied very hard, and I suddenly found myself really enjoying it. It took me a lot longer, but because I had time and I was able to, study and learn in my own way.
Mm-hmm.
And as a consequence, I did exceptionally well. I got, grade point average of sort of, 4.9. And so the way Harvard works is that if you do really well, you can end up applying to go to Harvard University. So it's kind of like a social scheme to help people who don't, necessarily apply through the formal way. And so I ended up getting a master's from Harvard, which was just incredible. And going back to what you were saying about confidence, there's something really weird about being somebody who is very dyslexic and knowing you're dyslexic and having that kind of lack of confidence, but then standing in Harvard Yard, throwing my bloody black hat, my hat in the air. I was like, wow, if I look back at that little kid who got chucked out of school, who everybody said was never going to amount to anything. And I can remember my friends and family, and particularly, the parents of my friends just being so disparaging, like, well, you just shouldn't really even hang out with Juliette because she's just going to fail at everything. Yeah. And when you look back on it, you're like, you know what, your life can change in a dime. Just keep going and believing in yourself, and you can achieve anything.
Juliette, I am curious regarding your dyslexia. Now, when you took your first degree, you struggled big time. Okay. But this time, when you took the other qualification in the US, it was easier for you. Now, I know you said you enjoyed it this much. What was different between the two for you to excel the second time? I know you said because you only did so many hours because you did it up to midnight, but most people would have thought, right, you're probably working during the day, then you're going studying, it would probably be harder. So what was the comparison that made it easier for the second time for your dyslexia?
So interestingly, you kind of hit the nail on the head. My first degree, I was working full time and pursuing a full-time degree. So because my parents didn't have any money, I didn't have any money. So I was going to school during the day and I was working at night. And I was exhausted but it was really difficult, like really, really difficult, the first degree. I didn't have time enough to think. The second degree, I had been working for 5 years. I had a very successful career and I had money in the bank. So basically going to night school, and then during the day I would sit in a cafe. I would sit in whatever cafe would have me, and I would just work actually on studying. And I loved it. I cannot tell you how much joy. It was just so wonderful just to be able to go, while somebody might need, half an hour to get this, it's just going to take 2 hours, but that's okay. I was pursuing a degree in economics and government, basically. So it was a liberal arts degree, but a focus very much on anything to do with politics, economics, and geography, which, I'm still fascinated by this day. I'm not in that field, but I absolutely love geopolitics and economics and that kind of stuff, and I just loved every second of it. I think there is that element, that when you are dyslexic, you just need a little bit more time. The other thing that's amazing, and I said this to my now ex-husband, I was like, before I came to Harvard, I just don't think I could even read. Like, I don't think I could actually read. Whereas if I had, whatever it was, 3 years of just slowly, studying, I can read now. I can open The Economist and I can read the whole thing. I could never do that before I was given the opportunity just to sort of plod my way through.
I get that, but was it really slowly more the effect that you had that space to actually study, because you didn't have that before. I don't necessarily think it was, I mean, you can correct me, I don't think it was necessarily to do with slow and fast, but you didn't have, the first time you did a degree, and you didn't have any time to really study, because during the day when you did the second qualification, you remember you talked about you was at the CAF, anybody would take you, and then you had the time to plod and think and actually take it in. With dyslexia, if you force too much down the hole, it gets overwhelming. You had the time because, you know, you didn't have that full-time job like you had in the first instance.
Yeah, and I think also the other thing that's kind of interesting is the subject. Although in my degree, I loved retail. I like the practical application of retail. I like working in retail. You know, I've worked in pretty much every retail high street store while I was going through my degree, and, you know, while I was in college. But it wasn't the intellectual curiosity I had for areas of study that really interesting.
You didn't have the passion. There's something that actually twigged with what we was doing the second time with you.
Yeah, I think it was just harder.
Yeah,
like studying economics, geopolitics at the Harvard level. You know, going into, you know, lectures in JFK and, you know, HBS. You know, these are literally the highest academic powerhouses in business, economics, and, you know, government practice. And I was part of that. Not, you know, you could just literally walk into a lecture. Once I got admitted, you could walk into these lectures and, you know, your whole world was just completely opened up. I mean, it was a real changing, I think, it's just a huge opportunity. And I think a lot of time in life, it is, you know, who you bump into. And as I say, my first husband, I was just on his coattails, and I ended up in this environment. And I was like, you know what, well, I've got to take advantage of it. You know, if it can be that I end up with a postgraduate and a master's degree from Harvard, then damn well I'm going to do it. I mean, the crazy thing as well is that, you know, I'm dyslexic from a word and written and spelling point of view, but I also struggle with numbers as well. And my first postgraduate from Harvard was in finance and operations. And I still today struggle with, you know, looking at...
Hold on a minute. So how did you get through that craziness?
Again, that was really difficult because it did look just like a whole load of numbers on a sheet that I couldn't really see. And that was the first postgrad I got, the one in finance and operations. I leaned heavily on my cohort. So there were quite a few people there who really did help and coach me through, and I will be forever grateful for them. Just sitting with me quietly in a cafe and going, okay, Juliette, I know we've gone through, you know, whatever it was, a balance sheet, and I know we've gone through, but we just need to go through it again because clearly you're not getting it. So some aspects work. Financial accounting has always been a killer for me. You know, I studied financial accounting, you know, at college. I studied it in my first degree. I studied it in my postgrad. I still struggle with financial accounting. You know, corporate finance, I'm you know, a bit more, you know, comfortable with. And it's just funny the way, you know, numbers and, you know, certain things just maybe don't go in as easy as than others. But anyway.
No, I'm the same way when it comes to numbers. I mean, my sister, she's the financial genius. I just go to her. Anything that needs to be number crunched, leave it to somebody that knows what they're doing. Otherwise, I just end up fumbling it and everything goes awry. Don't give it to this dyslexia man if there's any numbers involved. Data I'm very good with. You give me anything to do with data, graphs, I love data. And funny enough, I can see the patterns in numbers when it comes to data. But algebra and anything, the heavy duty, no. Sis, where are you? That's just one of those ones. So, right, okay, so great. You know, what a stunning journey you've had with dyslexia, and you've actually broken the mold in so many ways. You know, you've traveled the world. You've gone to a completely different, I mean, where did you start off world-wise? Where are you from?
Well, I was born in Tokyo. So I was born in Tokyo, and then we moved to Yokohama. Then we moved back to the UK for, 18 months. Right. Then we moved to Singapore. Then we moved to Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia.
Wow.
Then we came back to the UK. And I spent, some time, going through college and then doing my first degree. Then I worked for a couple of years and then went to South America. So I lived in Bolivia for a while. I lived in Argentina for a while. Then I ended up moving to the US with my husband, and we lived there, or ex-husband. So we did our postgrads there. So we were there for about 4 years. Then came back to the UK, and then ended up moving to Andorra. So I now live in Andorra, which is sandwiched between Spain.
So this is where your confidence, or I shouldn't say this is where, but this is one of the things that help you with your confidence, with the moving and shifting around and making new relationships, and and having to adapt on a regular basis, which most people don't have to do. And even, it just amazes me, you've gone to another country with your ex-husband, and then you've just picked up and you've just gone on. So I was thinking, how is this woman doing it? But obviously you traveled a lot. I mean, why was the family traveling so much when you was a kid? What happened?
Well, so my father was an only child. So my father's now sort of 83, just about to be 84. So he was an only child and was born during the war. And so he was brought up by his mother. And basically he got to a certain age and he was like, I just really want to get out of here. So he was working in insurance at the time, and there were 2 jobs that weren't in the UK. One was in Zimbabwe and the other one was in Japan. And since his father was in the war, he knew there was no way that they would ever come and visit him if he was in Japan. So he chose to go to Japan. So he arrived by boat, if you can believe it, because planes hadn't been invented. He arrived by boat to Tokyo when he was 21. And he had an extraordinary, life and career, because obviously, it was just crazy to be, a gaijin in Tokyo just after the Second World War. And then he sent for my mum. And again, my mum came on a boat because, there wasn't, planes hadn't been invented. So that was why, and then from there, he was an expat, and he loved being an expat. And so spent the next, whatever it was, 25 years of his life being an expat, until he came back and did the final couple of years before his retirement in the city of London, which he absolutely hated every second of it.
I can imagine.
But yeah, I mean, he was truly brave. When I look at my parents, I'm like, wow. My mother, she, joined him. She'd only ever been, she was born and bred in Leeds. And he was like, sent her a letter, which took, 3 months to get there. Hey, Jan, do you want to jump on a boat, and let's get married over to Tokyo? I mean, in those days, you had to look up where Tokyo was. Atlas. Yeah. You couldn't just Google it and go, what are the greatest sushi restaurants in Tokyo? I mean, that was just the thing. So, yeah, when I look at how lucky I've been to travel, I do think, God, goodness, my parents were they were the real pioneers,
Yeah, and at the same time, what they've done is they've instilled into you a great sense of independence and strength, and how can I say, because you were used to traveling, making new friends, you weren't afraid to do what needed to be done, and that was part of your journey. So even though you was dyslexic, you wasn't afraid to make a move in whatever direction you had to make a move in, and that shows, because your character, that's why I was curious in your parents, how you grew up, etc., because it shows in your character. You're very confident. Most dyslexics aren't very confident, and I'm sure you weren't to the extreme, but you had this particular strength in you, and just this go-getter. I'm going to do it, whatever happens, because of those, colourful things that happen into your life. And it's just wonderful to hear. And this is why I'm so happy to hear those, those little intricate things. So that's great.
It's funny as well, because my kids, so Cosmo, who is my eldest, he's just turned 21.
Yeah.
So he decided he was going to go to university in Tokyo. So he got a job. He got a place at the University of Tokyo. And, last year, did his first year at the University of Tokyo. Then we were talking about AI, and Cosmo's got ADHD. I mean, he is so, his brain is, he's very like his father, like just super intelligent. And once he gets onto something, he's like focused like a laser. And I was like, I'm going to move away from GE. I want to do something different. I've got this idea for, uniquely personalized education. Anyway, before I know it, I got a call from his father. Obviously, being the mother, I get told nothing. Oh, by the way, Cosmo's coming to join you to basically program this new AI that you're doing. So he's now living in Tokyo, but he is founding this new company with me. Wow. And because a lot of our team are in India, he rang me up the other day and he said to me, you know what, Mum, I think I might move to India because, that's where the team are. So I think it goes, it passes through the generations. And then Zavi, who's my 18-year-old, he's like, Mom, I'm so glad. I'm the happiest I've ever been now I'm out of school. I want to go to Canada and I want to basically do snowboarding and skiing. He's a brilliant athlete. So he's going off to Whistler. Wow. And then he's like, and then I want to go off to Chile and I'm like, well, great,
So Mom, it's your fault. It's your fault that your children just travel all over the place having a crappy life and they learn nothing. It is your fault.
Well, they did. You're right. I mean, what's interesting is I ended up getting a degree, but they are, smarter than I am. But it's just their choice.
Listen, I'm only joking when I say know nothing. It's the opposite. They know exactly what they want. The majority of kids that come out of school and that are educated, they do not have a clue what they want to do. They end up going to college, just taking something because maybe it'll fit, and they still don't know what to do. And then the majority of them go to uni and they still don't know what to do. Your kids already are following the path and have a passion, and they're going across the yellow brick road and they know what they want to do, and they take the next step, and they know what they want to do with the next step, and they make a mistake. That's okay. And I can see that's happening right now. And what a wonderful thing as a mother to see that happen and think, well, if they make a mistake, whatever, but they're happy in what they want to do. They have a resilience. Most children, and I'm sure you've seen it with other parents that, oh yeah, they're doing this, but they don't really know what they want to do. And you're not in that position.
Yeah, and I think the point that you made about happy children are successful children is a really interesting one. And going back to what we were talking about before, when I was talking about how unhappy I was at school and how unhappy I was when I was in a situation where I was doing stuff that I wasn't enjoying. Yep. I think it is a big part of being successful, which is about being happy. I really do. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. When you are happy, you can achieve so much. And when you're pursuing the dream that you want to pursue,
that's right,
the dream that your parents wanted you to pursue, or society thinks you should pursue, I think you just don't end up kind of living your best life. And I know that's contrite.
Totally. And I think the happiness is part of the parcel of going forward in life, because I do also believe you can be unhappy and be successful. Whether you're going to be happy to be successful is another thing, because when you're unhappy, you do what you have to do to get out of a hole. And if that is doing something you don't like, it doesn't matter, because it's better than being in the hole. So you don't necessarily have to be happy. But I think it's a situation, and you hit it on the head, where people can go forward when they have to focus on getting forward in a life where they want to be in a better situation. And especially when they got the right background, such as the family or their peers or someone in their life, or they're inspired by something. I think that's a better word for it. They're inspired by some icon, family, parents, whatever. And I think in your situation, your children were inspired by you and whoever else in their close circle. Hence why they're doing similar to what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
You're a role model.
I think what I find really inspiring about my kids is that, they think for themselves. They're not cookie cutter. And I know it's not the easiest decision. it can't have been easy for Cosmo to give up university in Tokyo. It can't have been easy for Xavi to decide, you know what, I'm not going to do. He was pursuing a technical, BTEC essentially. And he was like, I just don't want to do that, Mum. I just don't want to do that. I know what I want to do and what I want to do. I mean, he was 17 at the time. He dropped out of A-levels. So then he had to start doing his BTEC. So he did his first year of A-levels, hated it, decided he didn't want to do that. He wanted to do a big BTEC, and then decided, actually, I don't want to do that either. Now what I want to do is I want to go, and I want to be an instructor of snowboarding and skiing. And you're like, you know what? I respect that. That's a strength of character. Lots of people will have just said, well, this is what I should be doing. No, you only live once, and if you are driven by a passion and curiosity for something, then, you should be able to go and do it. Now, I understand that, a lot of options in life are closed down by the fact that you just can't afford it. Necessity is the mother of all invention. And I say this to my boys all the time, that is so true. But by the same token, you have to be willing to, be creative in how you spend your life energy. You can't just, I don't think it's a waste of life to just agree with what everybody thinks is quote unquote normal life, because you just, you're never going to, you're never going to reach your potential,
Yeah, but the thing is it takes a lot of strength and courage to do what you're talking about, to actually do what you feel is right for yourself. Do what no one else is doing, and there are people such as you and myself that we don't really care. We just do what's right for us, and we advise other people that as long as you're okay and you're happy, that's all that matters. But there's a lot of people out there that just don't have that strength, and they don't have that acceptance, accept who they are, to go forward and be rightfully in their own skin, to make those decisions that you're talking about. It's so easy for us because we've got to this stage in our lives to make those decisions and help our children make that decision. But I do understand there's a lot of listeners here, and they're thinking, well, can I do it? Can I make the change? Can I? And I want to say, listeners, that this is why I like doing this podcast, because it just shows you there are a lot of people that are successful, and you can be dyslexic, ADHD, it doesn't matter what you are, but we all have our lows and our ups. And I'm sure, Juliette, you've heard me, you've listened to some of our podcasts, and I've said this, but it's the same thread. We have some rough days, but you are able to succeed in life. But you really got to be happy with yourself, really. Otherwise, you're going to be pushed and pulled by people that want you to go in a different direction. You've got to have that strength to know, you know what, that doesn't make me happy. I'm happy doing this. I'm happy the way I think, and I think I should go in that direction. That takes a lot of strength, and that takes time for you. But you will get there as long as you go through a situation of accepting who you are. And if you don't like what you accept, then you're in the position to have the power to change that, because you accept who you are, right? What do you say about that, Juliette?
I think one of the things that I've learned, because I'm older, I mean, I love getting older. I find that my life gets increasingly better.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And one of the things and the reasons I think that is because I'm confident in letting myself go into the flow of life.
But hold on. But where does that come from? Why are you so comfortable of accepting to let that life? Where does that come from?
I think a lot of it is the fact that you're just older and you know that life's going to look after you. I think you are, in a lot of cases when you're younger, you're taught that the world is a really scary, frightening place, and everything, if you don't do a certain thing, your life is going to be terrible. And what I've come to understand and witness is actually life is a wonderful, truly wonderful gift. And, if you walk out into the river of life, okay, and you lie on your back and you just let the river take you, it will take you where you should go. It will take you. Just don't resist. Just
okay. That's That's
follow
good.
your...
No, that's good what you're giving us. You're giving us, but give us some examples. How do you allow life take you in the position where you should be going? Just give us an example.
Well, I mean, the most recent example is me moving from growth engineering. So growth engineering is a very successful SaaS company that delivers to some of the biggest companies in the world. We've got, a big reputation, and, it's just a fantastic company. And, I said to the management team, because we have quite a collegial way of working, I said to the management team, look, I want to step out into AI. I want to pivot growth engineering, and I want us to move into an AI first business. And the management team were like, no. Now, I am the primary shareholder, so I could have forced it, but I was like, look, I don't feel like I can stay in my role. I'm going to have to leave. And they were like, well, okay, fine, but that still doesn't make any difference. We're still going to carry on doing what we do in growth engineering. So I made the jump into a startup, and basically, I'm happier than I've been. Now, we're trying to build the product. We're trying to build the product with some fantastic first clients. So we've got, again, some big global companies that are basically helping us validate the product. And so, although we are in startup mode, the reality is that we're clearly onto something really good. And so we've got our first beta customers, and I'm out there sort of drumming up the world of what AI could be. But I think for most people at 52, they'd be like, well, let's just
play it safe,
have a really easy life, and not
play it safe.
The technology company, so I think that's one thing. I think another example would be moving to Andorra. I mean, my kids were not fully appreciated, but I was just like, I just want a different life. I don't want to have a life which is in London or in and around the home counties. It's all really hectic. It's all really kind of I would just want a more peaceful life. I want to live in the mountains. I want to have dogs. I want to be able to do all of those things. And of course the family were like, well, you can't do that. You need to just be in the society that or in the group of families. You can't just bust off into the middle of nowhere. And also, you don't know Spanish, you don't know French, I mean, how are you going to do all of that? And I was like, well, that's just what I want to do, and I'm really happy for doing that. But I think a lot of it as well is I think just getting older is a good thing. It's a blessing. People talk, they have an obsession with being young, and I'm like, you know what, it's really good. The older you get, you're just into your skin, and you're just like, you've got the confidence to do different things rather than self-checking yourself the whole time.
Well, listen up, listeners, because I find this woman to be very strange. I've never known a woman smile so much when she says, I'm looking forward to, going through the process of getting older. Do you know how many women would have a go at me if I would say, how old are you? Do you know how many women would bite my head off? Yet there's this woman that's just blatantly says her age, and she goes, yeah, and she's got a beautiful smile. The teeth are pinging because she's that happy. How strange is she? I told you I get some strange ones on here, without a doubt. But listen, let's move on. Let's talk about your business, right? So you obviously got a passion for the learning side of it with AI, and I totally get that, because your journey shows that. It shows that you've gone through that learning process, the pain that it goes through, and you understand that, and you want to make it easier for everybody, and you've made it at a time when there's opportunity. The opportunities there to make it easier for everyone else. So in your business, just tell us about the structure of business. Who are you helping in general? Are you helping corporates? Are you helping schools? Are you helping individuals, or is it some of the above?
Yeah, so it's probably so my curiosity with learning really stems from this idea of in the world at the moment, we have a one-to-many approach. Okay, so a teacher stands in front of a classroom and basically teaches a whole load of students. In the online learning world, it's a similar sort of thing. So you've got one piece of e-learning or a video which is sent out to many people. Okay, so the learning pedagogy of that doesn't work for the way the brain works. Okay, so the way the brain works is we're all unique and we're all individual. Okay, so in an ideal way, to get knowledge from one person to another, we need to tailor that learning in order to maximize what you call the cognitive load. Okay, and that is your brain's ability to take in information and retain it and do something useful with it. And a lot of the problems that we have in a kind of one-to-many approach is this idea of individuals reach cognitive load and they stop learning. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to improve the brain's function, and that improves the neuroplasticity of the brain, which is the brain's ability to learn. Okay, and we do that by improving 4 things. Okay, first of all is, have we got the learner's attention? Okay, and in most cases we don't have the learner's attention because the learner doesn't really know why they're learning it. They don't really care. They might be hungry. They might a range of different reasons, but we don't have the learner's attention. The next thing that we need is we need to have active engagement throughout the learning process. Now, in a one-to-many scenario, you just can't possibly do that. Because when I'm talking to you, you're going to have questions, you're going to be thinking about something, you're going to want to apply it. So that level of engagement is just not there. The third thing is that you need to have real-time feedback. So after I've done this little monologue, you're going to be going, oh, well, I wonder how that actually works. Or have I got this right? Or did I understand that? Or in my context, how would I apply that? Okay, so you need real-time feedback. And then you need to consolidate that within your environment. So what that consolidation means is how, from the stuff that's just being said by the teacher, what does that look like in my brain, and how am I scaffolding that information in order to make sense of it? Okay. So ultimately what this means is that the only way to ensure that a learner is attentive, the learner, you've got active engagement, you've got real-time feedback, and you're able to contextualize and consolidate that information in a meaningful way, is through one-on-one learning conversations. Okay, so what I'm trying to do with Zavmo AI is focus on this idea that so basically I've developed this structure called the 4D process, and the first one is discovery. So you have a conversation with Zavmo about your hobbies, your ambitions, where you are now, where you want to get to, any neurodiversity needs you have, any interests you have. And you have this conversation so that Zavmo knows basically what is going to make you curious, okay, and what's going to gain your attention. You then go on it to the discussion phase. And this is another thing that doesn't happen in normal learning pedagogy. You get told when you're going to learn. You don't choose how you're going to learn. So the discussion phase is saying, okay, fine, you want to do something in social media marketing, but you want to do it through a conversation, and you want to do it at 9 o'clock in the morning, and you want to do it for 20 minutes a day. So you're setting your own type of, the time and space that you're going to learn. Then what happens is you go into delivery, and delivery is in and around your context. So let's say my youngest son has to do maths GCSE. He decides he wants to do maths GCSE. He's not interested in learning maths in a normal way. We have to teach him maths through utilizing stuff that he's interested in, like motorbikes and surfing. Okay. Learning maths, the application of how math is used to understand, understanding, mechanics, motorbikes, waves, is all the same thing. But what we need to do is we need to basically create a learning environment and deliver learning in line with his hobbies and interests. And then the final thing is, that's all interesting. So I'm obviously he's going to concentrate, and he's going to totally get what we're the point. So the learning objectives side of the learning, because it's all in an applied way in terms of motorbikes and waves and all the stuff that he likes. But then the really exciting stuff is when you look at learning, when I'm delivering learning out to you, that's the lower levels of what's called Bloom's taxonomy. So this is the way the brain works. There's a model called the Bloom's taxonomy. And when we're in receive mode, which is where we are when we're in a one-to-many class, we're just basically absorbing noise. We're not really doing anything with it. And so in order to get that level of engagement, we need to apply it. And so that's the fourth and final D, which is demonstration. So it's saying, right, Zavi, my younger son, we've just been looking at maths with regards to how you can work out the size of a wave or what the optimal wave to surf is. You know, here is the information you need. Now, basically use your math skills to tell me how you would work out what the optimal wave is to surf. So it's that demonstration part which really does allow the short-term memory to move to the long-term memory, and that curiosity that you need to scaffold the information so that you really are moving forward. So yes, it is an AI business. So how we are delivering this is AI, but the reason that I'm developing it and I'm using AI is because I have a really deep curiosity with regards to the neuroscience of learning. And I believe if we can focus on, really developing better quality instructional design, no learner will ever get left behind. So for example, when I'm being taught by Zavmo, at the moment I'm being taught data lakes by Zavmo, which is, the engine behind AI. Because I'm dyslexic, it's in short, sharp bursts. We do a lot of repetition. I have double line spacing, and any large words are spelt phonetically. Also, there's written word and voice at the same time. So all of the elements that help me as a dyslexic learn better are baked into my learning experience. They wouldn't be baked into Cosmo's learning experience because he's got ADHD and he's got different interests. If I was learning about maths, it would be mountains and dogs. When Zavi's learning about maths, it would be, skiing, snowboarding, waves, whatever.
This is really, really interesting. Unfortunately, we're going to put a line in the sand for the time being, because there's quite a huge amount and you've put a huge amount of effort into this, especially when you're making it unique learning experience, depending what you have, ADHD, dyslexia, etc. And I hear you. And I find this really interesting. Maybe we should get together another time and we should look at the practicalities of how this works.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it is obviously one of my favorite subjects, so I can monologue about this until the cows come home. But it's fascinating because my belief is ultimately, Eli, is that if everybody understands the way their brain works, everyone can ensure that they take better control over how they receive information. And I think for me, there's a lot of talk about, AI is going to take over the world. No. AI can facilitate you unleashing your inner superhero. We are at time optimal brain, so I think it's a very exciting time. But I would love to jump back on a call and we can just talk about neuroscience and how
definitely we'll work that out, because that does interest me massively. That's the kind of era I'm in, and I love all that, especially when it comes to helping neurodivergent people. I think this is really important. And listeners, this is the age that we really shine. We've always shined, but we've never really been, I shouldn't say never, because everyone's different. But in general, we don't believe in ourselves because we have problems with all these other areas in our life. Now, with AI have come along, where we are weak, AI is strong in. But where we are strong, AI is not great in. So we're great leaders. We are great taking the right decisions. Okay, we suffer from writing and etc. As I said, an example early on before, my writing has come tenfold. Why? Because of AI. I was struggling, and I used AI to help me for the last, I think, about 3 or 4 years, and my writing has come in tenfold. But I am still weak on that, so I use it as a tool. I don't use it to take over. I use it as a tool, and what makes me strong, I keep focused on the things that make me strong. And so it's nothing to be scared of. And Juliette has taken this tool, seen an issue that she wants to help people, especially neurodivergent, be you autistic, ADHD, dyslexic, it doesn't matter. She's building on that system, not to take you over, but to supplement, to help you become stronger, to help your lives easier. And she's doing some wonderful things. Well done, Juliette. You've lived a wonderful life, an inspirational life, and applied it to this point in time. And your children love you for it, and they're following in your footsteps, but in their own way at the same time. And there's something to be so proud of. Well done, Mum.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. It's always nice to hear that. But yeah, I think I've been blessed. I've been surrounded by the right people. And I think I've just let my curiosity lead me throughout my career. And yeah, I just look forward to seeing what can be achieved. But I think your words about how you describe AI and the power of AI to really, allow us to grow and develop is really powerful. And there's a message that needs to be heard. I think your comments on, we are the leaders of AI.
That's right.
Myself. I mean,
Correct.
I think you've absolutely hit the nail on the head. Let's be at the forefront of this revolution in order to make the world a better place, because we can do that. We really.
No, totally. I totally agree with you. I'm so sorry. We've got to call it a day. And I really, as always on this podcast, I wish I could have more time. I'm trying to be disciplined. I tend to talk too much. So my 2-hour podcasts have got to be down to an hour, and I'm adamant that I'm going to do that. But I'm looking to collaborate somehow and talk more about this whole beautiful journey that Juliette is on, because I know she's not only going to do great things for herself and her family, but I think for humanity, to be honest. And I really do mean that, Juliette, for humanity.
Well, thank you, Eli. I mean, I think I'm surrounded by good people is what, is all I can say. I think with a great team, you can achieve anything. And I'm really proud of, and I'm excited, the people that I'm working with now in all corners of the world. So our team, as I say, Cosmos in Japan, we've got developers in Mexico, we've got a team in India, we've got people in Spain, it's a global team. We're all rushing towards trying to improve so every individual gets their learning delivered. And it's not about money. Education is expensive and it doesn't have to be. So, the whole theme that we haven't yet explored, if you can get the instructional design right, that's one thing. But if we can make education as low cost for everyone in the world to basically find the career that they want and to explore, every learning option there is. Just imagine what our world could be like. The human is just insane, So yeah, exciting time, very exciting time.
Okay, so how can everybody get a hold of you, and how do they get in touch?
So the best way to get in touch is, so I'm on TikTok because obviously it's videos and I don't have to write.
I like that. Same here.
I'm on TikTok, and then I'm also on LinkedIn. So if you're coming from a business point of view, then I'm on LinkedIn. And if you're coming from a consumer point of view, then I'm on TikTok. But this is my passion in terms of talking about how we can improve learning. And I love to talk to people who have the same curiosity in and around instructional design, learning pedagogy, all of those kind of things. So please do reach out. I am always delighted, to hear from people.
Okay, and listeners, as you can see, she's going to do some seriously good things for the future, and it's best to get in now. And if there's something you think she can help you with, education or a collaboration from a point of view of a company, get in touch with her. The information will be down below to make it easy for you, so you can click away, have that conversation. You never know where it will go, and it will go in a positive place, trust me. You can't go wrong with speaking to Juliette, that's for sure. But unfortunately, we've got to go, and I've got to say, Juliette, thank you for your time, and we really do appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. It's been a real delight to talk to you, Eli. Thank you very much, and thank you for all of your listeners. So yeah, look forward to keeping in touch, and speaking soon, I hope.
And everybody, I will speak to you very soon, and sayonara.